Okay. So this one's a little bit longer, so I might have to talk fast to get through it here. I guess it's kind of a love story. Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be more people involved here. Main characters are Guy and Nicki. Guy was the first guy I ever met that was named Guy, and I never really got used to it. In fact, I think even now when I type up his name, my computer's asking me, "Are you sure that's a capital G?" So, anyway, he joined the army out of high school, but things had simmered down. Vietnam was pretty much over, and so he didn't go overseas. It was one of those rare windows of peace on Earth, and nobody was fighting. I'm not really sure what his plans were, but he ended up in the army in the kitchen mess. They turned him into a cook. And so after he finished his 4 years or so, he went looking for other cooking jobs and found one at Sandy's. I could never figure out what Kevin in the last story was missing. The gals weren't interested in him at all. But whatever it was, Guy had it. he started on the day shift, and it was just amazing to see the reaction. And I suppose he was good looking, but I couldn't see it. He had maybe kind of that Jon Hamm kind of face. Everyone likes him, right? And so he for some reason the waitresses they would just kind of get stunned. Anyway, but he was on the day shift, and it was kind of the wrong spot for him. Remember, I told you most of the waitresses were older. I think the youngest was 35 or so, and he was probably 25, maybe even younger. So he kept saying, "I want to get to the swing shift. I want to get to the later hours." Anyway, so he was quiet. When he smiled, one lip would curl up, kind of an Elvis Presley kind of grin, and he had these piercing eyes. I guess he didn't really use them on me, but I watched and I saw that he did use them on. He would just look and he didn't say a word, and more than a few just melted when he did. So I found it all completely mysterious, but Guy didn't. He knew he had something. I don't know if he knew what it was, but he knew he had something. And so he was just waiting to get to that later shift, and finally his time arrived. Now, Nikki was kind of a new waitress to the swing shift, okay? And she was just like textbook drop dead gorgeous. But she could also be little unpredictable. One time I heard a commotion. I'm still washing dishes back in those days. One time I heard a commotion and I looked up to see a young woman with both hands on Nikki's throat. And so Nikki was just a tiny little thing. And she's swinging her back and forth and all the time right on her throat there. And they were like, it was like some Tom and Jerry cartoon. It was just back and forth, back and forth. So I rushed out there, and so did everyone else. Everybody in the restaurant was up and gathered around there. And someone managed to get the fingers off of her throat. And then the young lady apparently was a customer, and she insisted in quite a loud voice that Nikki had poured hot coffee on her lap, and she had done it on purpose. She was just yelling it out. Have you ever had hot coffee poured on you? It's worse than it sounds. Yeah, it's like acid. It's just when it's boiling hot. Anyway, I was just a dishwasher. I left, and the manager was still trying to sort things out, and the screaming had dropped a little bit. I was actually anxious to get away from it once I realized no one was going to die. In the back, I was just serving up Chloe's New York steak and baked potato, bringing it back to her, and she liked her steaks, and Chloe did, yeah. Anyways, I can't believe that gal thought Nikki intended to pour coffee on her, that she thought, what was obviously an accident, that she did on purpose. And Chloe was silent. I thought, was the steak that good? Why is she so quiet? She did, didn't she? It was an accident, right? And Chloe had a delightful Southern accent, and she never lost it, no matter how many years she was there in California. He goes, "Well, I don't know," she said, real slow. But Nikki did ask me to switch tables with her so she could serve them. And I thought, well, what? I'm 18. She didn't want to, and I was trying to puzzle it all out. Anyway, so waitresses live on tips. The hourly salary is not enough to make them happy. So I couldn't see how that would help her at all to be pouring hot coffee on anyone. And so Chloe looked around to make sure that no one was listening, and then she finished the story. She says, Nikki and that other gal are kind of sweet on the same guy. Guy? Is this guy, our guy with a capital G, or just some guy? This could get a little crazy. Well, come to find out, it wasn't Guy with a capital G. It was just some guy. I don't know if they were both dating or what. But I never after that, I never looked at Nikki the same way again. She was sweet. She was gorgeous, little petite gal, but apparently just a little dangerous. Anyway, she never confessed. Never said she did it. And when asked about it, when reminded, she would say, it was all an accident. And she'd say it with a slight smile and that little sing-song in her voice. Anyway, so a little bit scary, right? Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit here. So now Guy is on swing shift. I don't know what happened to this nameless guy. He's gone now. And but when he found himself on swing shift, Nikki didn't react real quickly. She was used to being pursued. She wasn't used to anyone, ignoring her. But ironically, so was Guy. He was used to, the gals were always saying, "Hey, hi." They were making the first, hello to him. But instead, so Sandy got there first. Sandy had been, it's funny. It was Sandy's restaurant. Sandy, the waitress, yeah, she heard about it all the time. Anyway, she was young, but she had already been through the graveyard shift, worked some years on there. She was like the head waitress on the swing shift now. She was the next one to take a day shift, but they just weren't opening up, You have to wait for someone to die to get that job. And so she was waiting for that spot. And so I don't know how she was 25, 26 years old. But anyway, before the first week finished, Sandy, and Guy were dating. And they seemed happy enough. But I guess nothing was official. There was no rings on the fingers. And a few weeks went by, and Guy started dating Nikki, too. Nikki, the hot coffee Nikki. And I thought, no. There were no fireworks. We were all watching for him, though. Guy and Sandy just started seeing less and less of each other. Nikki was winning. Now, I was kind of rooting for Sandy. I really didn't think Guy and Nikki were going to hold each other's attention for very long. But I thought maybe Sandy might lose interest. But I was young, I was dumb, so I asked her. I don't remember how I worded it, but somehow I got the personal question out of the way and asked her about her interest there. And she says, I don't know. She said with a smile, I only know the last 3 months have been the very best in my life. And I have no regrets. No regrets at all. Wow, that was a lot to hear from a gal who might be in the midst of having her heart broken. She was obviously in love. So she was serious about Guy. It wasn't just an infatuation. I thought it was just a matter of time before Nikki faded away and Sandy would marry the handsome prince. Isn't that the way it always happens in stories? Anyway, instead, Nikki and Guy announced their engagement. And none of us believed it. They both seemed too young, too high-strung, too temperamental, not a good match at all. They just seemed like they were the wrong set. But they were determined, and shortly after that, they both left Sandy's, and I heard they did get married. I suppose it happens to most of us. Anyway, Guy signed up for culinary school in Palm Springs. They were quite popular at the time. I think they're out of business now. And I guess Nikki took a job somewhere nearby, lots of restaurants there in Palm Springs. They were just a couple of years older than me, the two of them, so I guess they could be floating around or somewhere. They wouldn't, they're not dead of old age yet. Perhaps Guy's still cooking. Maybe he's a chef somewhere. Maybe Nikki's a feisty grandma. Perhaps they stayed together. Maybe they stayed together. You never know. They might have settled in. Who knows? Anyway, Sandy, she met someone else. He didn't have Guy's grin. He didn't have Jon Hamm's chin. But he was solid. And he loved Sandy. So maybe this is a love story after all.